Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. And it's been what 2 3 days, so it's time for a new Neil Young release, right? So I want to review. Now this is kind of this is another archives release, but the gift that keeps on giving. But it's a little bit different in the sense that this actually was put out a couple of years ago, but in order to get it, you had to buy this, right? Which is Neil Young Archives Volume 2, which you had to pay for a 10 CD box, um, that covers Neil's, I guess, mid 70s period. And so if you shelled out the money to buy this 10 CD box, Archives Volume 2, you had a copy of Dume, Dume. I assume it's Doom. Dume? Doom. I was going to say Doom. Which you might be saying, well, wait a minute. Don't you mean Zuma? No, I don't mean Zuma. I mean Dume. If you notice, the album art is slightly different. They're pointing in the opposite direction. Some of the ships in the background are a little bit different. Some of the cacti are rearranged. But yeah, Dume, not Zuma. Now, kind of explain what I'm talking about here. So, the reason I'm reviewing this now is about a week ago, I assume, when this video is going up, it would have been about a week. Dume was finally released on vinyl as a standalone thing. So some of you might not have known that. So if you didn't want to shell out all the money for the whole box and get it on CD, you want it on vinyl. It is now a standalone double album, and a true double album too. Actually, it's filled pretty nicely space wise. What is Dume? Well, Dume is basically like kind of the full studio, like all the studio work that was done during the Zuma sessions, what became Zuma, which of course was released in 1975. And Zuma was sort of this reuniting of Crazy Horse after Danny Whitten had died. So the original Crazy Horse had Ralph Molina and Billy Talbot. Sorry, Ralph Molina on drums, Billy Talbot on bass, and Danny Whitten on guitar. Danny Whitten really was, almost like another songwriter. I mean, he was like a kind of a leader, but of course, when Neil Young sort of co-opted them, Neil took over, you know, control of Crazy Horse, and they became his amazing backing band. Of course, Danny Whitten died from a heroin overdose, and which was totally devastating to Neil. And part of that inspired "Tonight's the Night" and some of that music out of the whole Ditch trilogy, which we've done a whole video on "Tonight's the Night," so go back and look at that. But mid 70s, this is 1975, Neil sort of reunites Crazy Horse, and they bring in another guitarist, Frank Sampedro, who sort of takes over the rhythm guitar spot that Danny Whitten had. And they sort of revitalized Crazy Horse. And what they ended up putting out in Zuma is, one of Neil Young's greatest albums. If you go back and watch my epic Neil Young rankings, you see where I rank this, and most Neil Young fans rank this really high. And it's amazing. It's amazing. So you might understand why it's pretty exciting to get Dume, which is sort of the complete studio sessions here. Now, what I mean by that, it's not like 10 takes of the same song. These are sort of the final editions of each of the songs that were worked on during these sessions. And so it includes 9 of the 10. No, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there's 9. Sorry, there were 9 original songs on Zuma, and so it includes 8 of the 9. The The one song that is not included here that's on Zuma is Through My Sails, which was from a different session and was with Crosby, Stills and Nash. So that was, it's beautiful. It's a lovely Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young song that's sort of tacked on to the end of this, but it wasn't part of those Crazy Horse sessions. And so that's not on Dume. But the other 8 songs that are on Zuma are also on Dume. But of course, what is interesting for Neil collectors and why you might want to get this is all the other songs that are on here, that didn't make Zuma, but you know, most of which, well, so there's, let me just count them here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 songs from Zuma, and then 8 songs that didn't make Zuma on here from those sessions. And most of, I think, yeah, every one of those 8 songs, except for one, did appear later in often dramatically different, arrangements. And so I want to talk about, yeah, we kind of know about Zuma, and I talked about Zuma and the Neil Young, week we did. So this video, I want to focus primarily on these other songs that were from those sessions that weren't on the original Zuma, and then just kind of give you an overall, impression. So anyway, there's Neil and his cat, and here is the new, at the time, version of Crazy Horse with Neil, and this really is fantastic. This really is fantastic. So what's cool is, these are Crazy Horse versions of these songs, and most of these songs, that appeared later were on acoustic versions. Now, not all of them though, but we're finally getting to the point in the archives, at least with the '70s material, to where there is a lot of repetition. You're just starting to see some of these same songs that were in the vaults sort of reappearing on these different configurations as Neil kind of puts out these lost albums like Chrome Dreams, and stuff like that. But I don't know, I still find them really interesting. I'm still glad he's putting them out. I'm glad to have this. Now, Ride My Llama, and let's see. Actually, no, there's 2 songs on here that never appeared anywhere else. Sorry. So Ride My Llama, and Pocahontas both show up later on Rust Never Sleeps, but in acoustic versions. But it's really cool to hear them in these with like a full Crazy Horse band versions. Both are great, by the way. I love those acoustic songs. I mean, Rust Never Sleeps is one of my favorite albums of all time. Yeah, so I'm glad we have those versions. But these are kind of revelatory. And Rust Never Sleeps, 1979. This is 1975. Shows you that a lot of some of those songs that show up on Rust Never Sleeps, they're sort of percolating for years. With these rather definitive electric versions already. Fascinating that they kind of show up later in these dramatically different, acoustic versions. Pocahontas, the electric version of Pocahontas on here may be my favorite song of the new, the songs that weren't on Zuma. It's really good. Really, one thing about the Crazy Horse songs on Zuma and these extra songs on Dume, great vocal harmonies, and they kind of move away from that a little bit, or at least really working on like having them sound good. Later with Crazy Horse, I think they kind of back away from the harmonizing but I mean, really nice harmonizing on here, I think, which is kind of surprising. And Neil actually takes a lot of care on these songs, I think, to come up with really good riffs, hooks. There's a lot of great hooks on here, which was on Zuma, but on the extra tracks on here too. Also interesting, also that showed up later on Rust Never Sleeps, is an early version of Powderfinger. Now, Powderfinger has shown up like on Chrome Dreams and all that, but in an acoustic version. This is an electric version. It's like about 7 minutes, though. It's a little longer. Doesn't quite have the riff as defined as it is on Rust Never Sleeps later, but it's very interesting as well. Kansas and Hawaii, which both showed up later, um, on these archives release like Homegrown uh, it's like my favorite one. I gotta pull off the shelf here. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on the name. Oh, Hitchhiker. Um, and acoustic versions are here on electric versions with Crazy Horse, which is really interesting. Too Far Gone is on here as well. It is in that acoustic version that you do hear on Chrome Dreams. That same version, really. You know, first time we ever heard that song was on Freedom, and when Freedom was released in 1989, a version there, which actually I still think that's the best version. But you do have this version from the 70s that is now on Dume and Chrome Dreams. So, yeah, the two songs that are kind of unique to this that haven't shown up on like other archives releases in any other version, at least that I think I can't remember seeing them on anywhere. No One Seems to Know. It's kind of this kind of piano ballad that ends it, which honestly doesn't stand out to me too much. But Born to Run, that's not Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run, although also 1975. But no, this is Neil Young's Born to Run, no relation. It's actually a pretty solid rocker, really good. Surprised that didn't show up at some point later. But yeah, and then you have the classic Zuma's track, Cortez the Killer, one of my all-time favorite Neil songs. Which I'm gonna do a deep dive into that song, into Cortez the Killer, coming up soon. I think that's some interesting things with that song. It's a really fascinating song to deconstruct and break down. We'll do that soon. But yeah, Cortez the Killer is amazing, and I mean, those. I mean, what's on Zuma. I mean, Cortez the Killer, Don't Cry No Tears, Barstool Blues, Danger Bird, Stupid Girl, Drive Back, Looking for a Love, Pardon My Heart. Yeah, like I said, everything other than Through My Sails um, is reproduced here, but interspersed with all that stuff are these other 8 songs. So, as a whole, how does it work? I think it plays really well. I mean, Neil could have easily put out a great double album in 1975 with these other songs. But I'm also in some ways kind of glad he held them back. I do think the Rust Never Sleeps version of Powderfinger is a bit stronger and more definitive. Although this one's interesting, it's a little longer. Um, Kansas and Hawaii, I think both actually work equally well, electric or acoustic. Uh, Ride My Llama, I think is better acoustic later on Rust Never Sleeps. Pocahontas, I could take either one. I love this electric version of Pocahontas on there. It's really good. But I also love the acoustic version on Rust Never Sleeps. So, you know, that's what's always interesting about these archives releases and this alternate universe. If Neil had put this out, we never would have gotten Rust Never Sleeps because those songs would have been used here. So, I don't know. So let me put it this way: this is a great listen. I mean, does it replace Zuma? Obviously, Zuma's a bit tighter, because it's one album. This is sort of a double album, but the extra tracks are really strong. And I, why haven't I bought the vinyl? I don't know. I like it. We talk about these other songs, and at least these other versions already being out there in these archives releases, which I do have on vinyl. And I guess I've had this. I bought this when this came out a couple years ago, so I've had this already for a while. So I've already gotten kind of used to it. I don't know. I might go buy it on vinyl though. It's definitely worth having. If you're a big Neil Young fan, the bonus tracks I think can be revelatory, even if you've heard the songs before. But these are dramatically different versions than most of the songs you've heard. So yeah, I'd recommend it. Dume, or recommend grabbing it on vinyl now that it's a standalone vinyl release. All right, guys. Well, in the comments, what do you guys think? Have you guys heard this? Those of you guys who have bought this or maybe streamed it or whatever, and you're already familiar with it, or did you go out and grab it on vinyl? What do you guys think of Dume? Is it worth it, or is it just sort of Zuma with outtakes and extras? Or do you kind of feel this is, sort of its own, possible work in an alternative universe? I'm curious. What do you guys think? All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications, like the videos, share the videos. All that stuff helps us out. And we'll see you next time on Amity Tracks.